Hello fellow YouTubers. So today I'm going to work on overhauling the power steering pump on a 2008 Honda Accord. I'm going to show you what it looks like. As you can see, there's fluid. There's a lot of sunlight today, so there's a lot of shadows, but pretty much you can see there's fluid spilling everywhere. I'm trying to get a good shot of it. And that fluid has made its way down past the power steering pump, and my major concern is it's getting in, that power steering fluid. Apparently it's caustic, because one of the things that you'll hear in the technical manual is that you have to wipe it up immediately if it drops anywhere. So I'm going to be working on that, of overhauling this power steering pump so that it will not leak anymore. But of course you have the drive belt there, you have the starter, the alternator, and the compressor, and you don't want that fluid dropping on that. So it's very important to fix this issue. And so what I've done is I've slightly jacked up the car in the front. That will allow us to steer the steering wheel from lock to lock much more easily than with the car fully on the ground. You don't have to take it completely off. So long as the tires are slightly off the ground, that's great. That'll give you much more maneuverability. And of course the important thing is that I'm going to run the pump so that I can get the old power steering fluid out, but I'm going to do so by pouring power steering fluid into the reservoir gradually as the pump pumps out the old fluid, because I don't want any chances of that power steering pump running dry. I know that in the technical manual it tells you to run the power steering pump, and as soon as you see the fluid stop, turn it off. But you have to understand it's gonna be running dry, because all you have going on is you're taking off the return line to the power steering pump reservoir. So if you're running the pump, there's only some fluid here in the pump that gets used up right away as it goes through the pump, and then basically the pump is pumping air as it gets all the fluid out of the rest of the system. I don't want that happening, so I'm going to feed it continuously power steering fluid. But I'm going to show you how to go from this to this. What's extremely important when you do any job like this is that you get the information from the official technical manual from Honda. I got this from a forum. I'm not certain if you'll be able to get it for your car in that fashion, but you really want to get this technical information. These are the procedures and the techniques that the Honda technicians actually use when they work on your car in the Honda dealership. It is extremely important to get your hands on this. I would not do this job or feel comfortable doing this job without this. For my car specifically, there are two versions, because there's a 4-cylinder version of my vehicle, and there's also a 6-cylinder version of the vehicle. So in this case, for this procedure, the power steering pump is different for the V6, so I have to use a different procedure, and I had to download that. So make sure you get this. The first step that they talk about is getting this power steering fluid pump out. If I'm not mistaken, there's a little clip here. Oh, there's no clip. You just have to wiggle it out. So that's out, and I'm gonna leave it there because I don't really have any, they say to raise it up, so I'm gonna leave it pretty much there. And then The line that we'll be removing is this line over here up top. I don't know, it's coming out there on the camera. So much sunshine out here. So you have the two hoses. You have this lower hose here. That's where the power steering fluid goes to the pump. And you have this upper hose here where the power steering fluid goes through the entire system and returns to the reservoir. So this is the line that I will be removing. And of course I have to be very careful because when I take this line off, fluid will spill. I even presume that fluid is going to spill from up here. So I have a towel that I'm going to place. I'm going to loosen this clamp, move it to this part of the hose, disconnect this hose, get a towel there for anything that will spill. And then I'm going to take this hose and place it inside of a container. So this is the last one I'm doing for now because I only have 3 power steering fluid bottles left. It made a mess. I gotta go wash up, but I just wanted to show you this fluid looks pretty decent compared to this. So I'm done with the process for now. So the auto tensioner to release the tension from the auto tensioner is a bit of a pain in the butt. You need a 19mm socket, I think technically. I was able to fit a 3/4. But moreover, you want to do a motion of lifting up. It's this really weird phenomenon where basically you have what looks to be like a bolt, but it's not a bolt. It's just a point where you can latch onto with a socket wrench, and then you're trying to rotate a piece, and you're trying to get that piece to rotate entirely. And the way that you're doing so is latching on to what looks like a nut. And so now I have the wrench positioned as best as I can to get leverage, and I'm gonna try to pull up to get it to come free. As you can see, I am moving the belt, and I can see the whole system shifting. And you could even see that essentially if I do manage to get it all the way, I can remove the tension in the belt. But the issue really is that I don't have good leverage with this wrench. I needed a longer wrench, and definitely seems like something is seized here. But I'm gonna try to give it the best go I can as on camera. So you can see what I'm gonna do is, since I have it loose now that I'm holding on to it, I'm just gonna go ahead and remove the belt. Okay, and that's it. So one of the things I did is I got this reservoir tank out of the way. I put it here, that allowed me to get more leverage. And then, as I said, you want to get that wrench down under here, and essentially you want a motion of bringing the wrench up, not so much just bringing it towards the car, but you want to bring it up because you're rotating that piece there. So finally I got the belt off. Fluid's gonna come out, so I'm gonna get this towel ready here, and hopefully I'll be able to get this off without spilling more fluid. This socket wrench is pretty good. It's Husky, but Husky is made by Great Neck. It's a tool company out in Long Island, and their tools are the best. My preferred tools is Great Neck. Technically, until last I read, the same people who make Husky. So there's some fluid Of course, this is going to be one of the seals that we replace. I could definitely see that this seal is not very roundish anymore. Has a very flat appearance on the outward ring there. So I'm just gonna prop it back here with a towel wrapped around it so that it won't spill. You want to take care that you don't get anything in that inlet for the pump. So for as much as I could, I just ended up reverting to a regular wrench. So definitely, if you have some regular wrenches, it's pretty much the only way that you're gonna get this one loose. So I'm just gonna go ahead, continue loosening this up. It would have been really cool if I had one of those ratcheting wrenches. I'm gonna get this bolt off, and then I'm gonna show you the next one when I work on it. The other bolt is something that is absolutely ridiculous. Put some light on. You gotta get it from... I am barely able to get there to begin with, and on top of that, I have almost no range of motion whatsoever. I would assume that when you do this job at the Honda dealership, they have very special tools, electric ratcheting things, but this is literally the range of motion I have. That's it. That's all I get. And I have to get this guy all the way off. The good thing is that I bought new bolts, so I don't give a crap about these old ones, but this is really ridiculous. So just keep in mind, if I didn't have this wrench, I wouldn't be able to do this job. So make sure you have a wrench and get ready to do some crazy work to try to get in there. And with that super limited range of motion, unless you have an electric ratcheting tool. So I highly suggest, if you don't have any electric ratcheting tools, you don't have very small ratcheting electric tools that you get in here, stay away from this job. I literally spent over 20 minutes to get this one bolt out because of the limited range of motion, and because I could not hand spin the screw out until the very end. I even dropped one of my sockets because I was hoping to put a socket on it and rotate it like that, and all I did was lose the socket, and now I have to go searching for it. So anyway, finally got that out. Stupid bolt. And here comes the power steering pump. So one of the most important things you'll see in this video, or I should say, not one of the most important things, one of the best things that you'll find in this specific video is I'm lacking lots of tools, specialty tools that are needed for this job. And since I simply can't get these specialty tools, for example, you're supposed to get a pulley holder, which will hold the pulley for you while you break off the nut that attaches the pulley to the power steering pump. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I thought I would just stick a screwdriver in there. The pulley actually has massive holes, so what I managed to do is I have this big husky wrench. I got it wedged nicely in there, and I held the pulley, and I used a really big breaker bar that I had. Let me see if I can replicate it. I didn't want to do it on camera because I had to use a lot of force. Essentially, let's move up. I have this huge wrench, and I wedged it. Let's see. Yeah, I think I wedged it just about like so. Where I really just got the pulley to stop moving. You'll have to figure out on your own method. Let me see. I could just trying to replicate it here. It worked really well actually. So down here, I got that basically wedged there. I forgot. I think I did it actually over here. The idea is you're gonna get the biggest piece of metal you can. You're gonna wedge it. Remember, you don't want to do damage to the pulley. You want to get it in there. I believe I got it like such. I got that, I got that resistance there. I held it in place with one hand, and I hit it with the torque wrench, with the breaker bar really hard, and I got it to come off. So that process is done. That was gonna be a big part of it, because a lot of people said that without power tools, You won't be able to break this nut off. I managed to do it without power tools. And there goes the pulley. And then now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to clean up the case of the pump with some WD-40 and a towel to get it as clean as I can. Don't have a vice grip, so I'm showing you a method that you can use. We're gonna see how far I can get using these alternate methods. I'm using a breaker bar, and I'm just gonna get these bolts loose on the housing, so I'm holding it as best I can using that breaker bar. So I got one loose. Let's go for another one. So just try to get the best leverage you can. Let that breaker bar do the work for you. Put your hand at the absolute end. Put your hand at the absolute end of the breaker bar so that you get the best leverage. So I have all 4 of them loose. And very carefully now keep it this way. I hope that is the correct orientation. You'll see that I have a whole bunch of bolts and nuts and tools down there. What's gonna happen with that is those things are gonna get replaced. So that's why they're still there. I don't have a shop bench either, so I bought a very cheap dish bucket. I have 2 of them. One of them will be more of where the outer parts go, and you know, I'll put the case and the bolts in one, and hopefully the internals will go in the other bin to keep them as clean as possible. Alright, so the moment of truth, now is when we're going to find out how banged up, keep the camera on this, we're going to find out how banged up this pump is. Hopefully it is not. Hope it doesn't break my heart. I am looking for, so I'm opening up the case. Oh. So I'm immediately gonna flip this over because there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that's got loose pieces and such. The pump actually looks pretty good at first sight. I had watched Eric the car guy. He attempted a rehaul. So this video hopefully will be a successful rehaul, God willing. And so I'm going to do everything by the book. Every single seal that I will be replacing with a genuine Honda seal. I did not wash this in a sink with soap and water because I think it is very detrimental to get soap and water into the case of this pump. But most importantly, I'm going to follow procedure on this. And so right now, this is pretty basic, so I'm not referring to the technical manual because I already know the parts. So I'm putting that over there. And now I'm going to take my other bin and place the internal parts. I guess I'm gonna keep the belts here, I guess, just so I have it for reference. Okay, so this is a little weird because I remember this is supposed to just come off. Everything's looking really good, so I'm really happy about that. I did my absolute best that even with the pump leaking, I made sure to keep it topped off as best as I possibly could with genuine fluid. And so I'm looking at this, and this is looking awesome. There is some slight scorching, but if you look at the Eric the Car Guy video, you do see that there is some damage to this part. And here I don't see any damage, so that's really good. One of the things to note is that there's these two pins, and they are different sized diameters, so it will only let you place this back one way, is what I believe is the case. So let me try that out right now so that I know moving forward. And that is the case. It will only go back one way. I'm trying to put it the opposite way and it won't fit, so that's great. I love that kind of Honda engineering. What was interesting, I had to pause the videos because I couldn't get this off, and so tap it so that it can focus. Sorry for the chatter. I have someone who loves to be the center of attention, and so that's where that noise is coming from. I apologize for that. And so it was kind of wedged in there. You just have to get a good grip on it and it'll come off. What I want to do most importantly right now is before I take this off, actually I ended up I have this hair tie, and I want to put it around this. Well, actually maybe I still can. I shouldn't have tied it off. It was gonna work pretty well not tied off, but anyway, I am going to, oh shoot, is that a little bit, I guess I got a little bit of debris there. I'm gonna work this around. So I didn't want to take this out without getting those veins, to stay put, because I do want the plates to stay in place. I think that's very important. I feel wholeheartedly it's extremely important for them to stay where they are, because I'm certain they have different types of wear and that they fit in their positions as they are. So my wife had a very brilliant idea of, you know, I couldn't really get it out. I couldn't get this hair tie around it, and there wasn't enough space in here. And she said, why don't you just place the cover upside down for a little bit and let gravity do the work? And gravity certainly did. I actually tried to pull it up and I couldn't pull it up, and I just let gravity do some work, and voila. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this so that none of these go missing. So there you go. No! Alright, it's just one though. And the smooth ends go outward. So, you know what? I have to be sincere. I thought this would hold it in place, and it's not. So just be very careful, because I can see all of them wanting to shift. One of the things I can tell you about these little guys is that they definitely want to go loose. Very thankfully, I just had one come off, so I know exactly where the spot was for it. But even with putting this hair tie around it, they want to go out vertically. So I'm going to put it in this bag so that it stays put. So I'm continuing the process, and the parts are very wedged. So I even said to myself, oh, I must be done with the disassembly, but I don't remember that being the case in the diagram. This next part also slides out. I wanted to make a special note for myself, and of course for you, the viewer, that, and this is, I believe, something that Eric the Car Guy gets wrong. There is a dot. So you remove this. On the underside, there is a dot. I don't know if you can see it right there. Hold on a second. Right there. See that dot? In respect to the cover facing this way, that dot will be facing downward. Now it is interesting because, so I wanted to make a note of that for myself, for reassembly, and for you, the viewer. That dot will be facing downwards if you're holding the cover in this way. It is interesting because the rotor has dots as well. I'm gonna grab that real quick. See, I had to do this so that I could keep it in place. The rotor has some dots as well, and I hope to God that I captured that on video earlier, and I'm sure I did, because I had a lot of video actually with the rotor. So it's interesting to know I didn't see these dots. Did you see those dots? I didn't see those dots, so those must be facing downward, because I didn't see any dots at all. So in terms of holding the cover in this fashion, in this way, those dots will be facing all downward when you reassemble. One of the things I also wanted to point out is that it is no question as to why this pump was leaking. These seals are so hardened. I mean, you can see, look at that seal. Look, it doesn't even want to bend. Super hardened, super stiff, super brittle. And what's most insane is that they're flat. Super flat. Don't move, I'll move it. So flat, you can see that. Look at that. So it's supposed to be bulbous and round, and it's just so flat. Same thing happens here for the main seal. You can literally not even see the seal from the side, and you should be able to see that seal popping through there. So these seals are just completely wasted away. So brittle, stiff, they're definitely not serving their purpose anymore. So we'll continue in the disassembly process. I get this guy out of here, place it here. Try as much as you can to keep debris and foreign objects and materials out of there. And I don't know if this piece comes free. Alright, so we're continuing with the process. I had to refer, as I said, extremely important that you have this service technical manual. It's more important than watching this video, because when you do it for your own car, unless you're doing it for the same exact car that I have, which I doubt, I'm sure you're going to do it on another Honda, another slightly different power steering pump. You want to make sure you have this. I just wanted to confirm, because this is really wedged in there, but I got this now to start coming off. I'm sure that it has the same dot on the other side. Let's verify to see if we can find a dot. Interestingly enough, there is no dot. I find that to be a little surprising. And some bad news is that you can see some pretty bad scoring here and some burn. Like, you can see like power steering fluid burnt up in this area here, and it gunked up. I'm hoping it'll be fine, but as you can see, we're pretty much down to the very last part there. So what you will have is, of course, this part oriented with I guess an easy way to put it is with these indentations facing up away from the cover, not the other way, because I think you can, let's see if we can get it to fit the other way. So you can actually end up putting it the wrong way, because if you can get it to fit there, you can get it to slide in. You don't want to do that. Actually, okay, so you want to make sure that you have this side facing up away from the cover of the pump. And most interestingly, I don't think I can forget, because I have this scoring here from apparently power steering fluid becoming superheated and burning here, and this scoring the metal, so that'll remind me. But it will be facing this way when you reassemble. And the pins seem to be maybe slightly misaligned, because this part is giving me a lot of resistance in terms of putting it back. Let me see something. Yeah, so the pins might be a little misaligned. To get it out was kind of a pain, and then now it seems, yeah, so there you go. That's how it would go back. So we have this side of the cover fully disassembled. The next stage you'll see when I return back to this, so I'll be replacing. I'm gonna just well get it out now. Wow, it is so flat. Look at that. You can see it. It's like paper thin. It is completely wasted away. I had to pay $34 to get this new, the genuine OEM one. I was actually really upset about that because I think that is ridiculous to pay $34. But without it, you won't be able to do the job. That's what they figure. You're doing a pump rehaul. All in all, power steering fluid, all the things I needed to replace. I decided to replace some things that go beyond what's called for in the rehaul. I came out to $100. All right, so now we're back on the other side of the cover. We have the, oh my god, look, get that little chipmunk, hurry up. Look, anyway, whatever. So we have everything disassembled on the other side, which was really easy. This is where it's gonna get hard. We have to remove a snap ring. Interestingly enough, the first procedure as called for in the manual, that I hope is not gonna amount to anything because I just didn't want to do this yet, is to remove this. This is actually gonna be like an Allen key type thing that you're gonna remove. I'm sure I'm gonna have to make tons of force to get this off. I'm gonna use the brake bar to do that. I have to remove a snap ring, which my partner will do now. So as I said, folks, no special tools here. We are going to prop this so that the very edge of the case is on this piece of wood. I'm gonna hammer it out. I don't have any vice grips. I don't have anything fancy. There you go. Flash. So I wanted to show you folks how beat up this bearing is. Just check this out. Listen to that. Can you hear that? So I'm glad I got that new bearing. Spins so easily, so you could hear it. So that bearing is gone. For comparison, this is a new bearing, and see the difference? It doesn't spin so freely, and nice and quiet, smooth, brand new bearing. So we're gonna try to press that in now. All right, so I got my new bearing in. Look at that, beauty. Can't even get it to spin that way, as you can see. You have to give it a nice hard spin. I would have gotten that on camera for you guys, but I used some very unorthodox methods. All right, so now for the fun part, we're gonna start removing the seals. This is one of the main seals. You have to get out the shaft and the bearing. So don't put that back in before getting this seal out. As I said, I'm using all genuine. This seal is so degraded that there's literally gunk here that is actually the broken down seal, you see? So you gotta make sure you clean that out. I'm not gonna clean it fully yet because I'm gonna get this out. Here comes the bad part with having no tools. So I didn't want to use anything sharp. I had this great neck, as I said. Shout out to Great Neck. Love Great Neck tools. I had this Great Neck. What is this? 5/8 wrench. I just put it in there right under the seal, and I got good leverage, and I just popped it off. This seal has metal on the inside of it. I'm gonna show you in a second. One of the things that I wanted to note is you'll see there's power steering remaining everywhere. That's something that you want to, I'm going to clean this out because, as I said, there's this broken down seal all around. But you want to make certain that you use power steering for every seal that you replace. This is something that I did not see Eric the car guy do. In fact, he used the grease, and I am almost certain that grease is the reason responsible for these seals not sitting right. And to mention, the biggest mistake, and I have to say it was a mistake that he did, is that he didn't use genuine Honda seals. And then in the process that he goes through, I appreciate that video, by the way. I'm very thankful to him. So I'm not trying to bring him down or anything like that. I think he made an awesome video in the sense of seeing all the parts. I was very intimidated of doing this job, But thanks to his video, I was able to see all the parts, and I didn't find it so intimidating. So I'm very thankful to him for that video. But I do have to say that was a mistake on his part to not use the genuine seals and to use that grease. What is called for in the technical manual is that you use power steering fluid everywhere that you put a new seal. So basically you want to coat these seals with power steering fluid. And just look at that, all that power steering fluid that's still there. You want to make sure that you replenish that. Everywhere you saw bits of power steering fluid, add in the procedure of putting your seals back. As I said, make sure you get those genuine seals, because in his video, one of the things you see is that he resorts to buying some seals, but he only gets some. I think he only replaces 2 or 3 with genuine seals. You want to get all those genuine Honda OEM seals from the dealership. Another thing to note is that, as I said, that seal that was in there was coming apart, and I was cleaning that area up, and you can see, look at this napkin, that's all the seal material that I'm cleaning off, and I'm still not done. So make sure you clean out that area very well. So something very extremely interesting to note is, you have to stay still, is that the new seal that I'm putting in is quite distinct from the old seal. I think this seal, the old one, had no metal inside whatsoever. I don't know, I'm not sure, I can't see any metal, but this one apparently has metal inside. And also you can see the difference in the design between the two. I actually became super confused because I'm looking back at my own video to try to find out how to orient this before I press it in, which I'm going to use a socket for. But they are the same size, so when I put them next to each other, they line up perfectly. I'm assuming it was a new design, and that the design hopefully is better. So I just wanted to make a note of that. And so this side, I'm gonna throw that in there so I know that it's the bad one, the old one. This will be up in terms of the case, so it will go like this. And what you do for this process is that you get a socket that lines up with the edge. Actually, you know what? No, it's gonna be really hard to do that. Oh, wait. Oh, I did it. All right, well, scratch that. I'm gonna use the socket anyway, just to make sure I press it in fully. So, albeit not perfect, but the biggest socket that I have is a 13/16 socket, and I'm gonna go ahead and use that to fully press that in there. All right, so we have that seal pressed in, nice. And as I said, make sure you put power steering fluid everywhere under the seal. If you did like me and you missed that step, just plug this up with a napkin on this side, pour some power steering fluid over through this guy here, and then just use your finger to pump it through, and it'll end up under the seal there. And as you can see, I have it nice and coated with some fresh power steering fluid. And now we're gonna work that shaft back in. All right, I'm gonna put some power steering fluid here so that it can go in easier, but I'm gonna press that off camera. All right, so now we're working our way back. I'm going to place this snap ring back to hold the bearing in place. In the technical manual, they mention you want to have the bezel side up. I have to admit, I do not know which side they mean by that. I am going to choose the side that is more flat to put it against the bearing and leave the side that's a little more smooth up. So I'm going to do that, hopefully on camera. So let's hope we can get it in there. And we're having some technical differences, as they say in the movie Idiocracy. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's just check to make sure. Oh, let me get that little bit of debris out. Got a piece of debris there. Okay, so that looks hella flush, as they say. And just making sure the snap ring is fully in place, which it is, so we're good. So that's that. All right, so the next step is, which is, as I mentioned in the technical manual, the first thing of part of disassembling the pump case is getting this valve portion opened up. I have never in my life done a job where I've used so many different tools, and I ran into some technical differences when, once again, I thought I had everything and I had to go get something else. And so right now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna break this open. The freaking thing requires a 10mm Allen key, and I don't like using Allen keys, so I got a socket. This is the biggest socket that they sold at Lowe's. I'm gonna go ahead and break it now. So we got this bad guy off, and now we're going to see what is so special. The reason why you can't skip this part, wow, look, yeah. The reason you can't skip this part is because there is a seal in there, so you do have to, unfortunately, get that guy out. There's the seal right there. Bless you. So that's pretty much it. I am going to refer to the diagram real quick, but all right. I'm gonna refer to the diagram real quick, but I think that literally the seal is this seal right here. I am not, so let me check right now. Yes, I am going to, I hope I don't regret doing this, because I have it open. I do want to just inspect this stuff. I'm gonna literally keep the spring oriented in that way. And let's see if that valve comes out. So there's the valve. Oh, let's see. Is that? I guess that's the valve. That's it. What I'm gonna do for some good measure is I am going to pour some power steering fluid. I'm gonna keep this oriented this way so I don't forget the direction. I'm gonna pour some power steering fluid in there to kind of cleanse it out. Might as well, we're in there, so can't hurt. Okay, there it goes. Going to place it back in there. Looks pretty good. I'm very happy. You know, this is the kind of quality you expect from a Honda. Everything looks good. I'm going to put it back in there. Slide it gently. Okay, I'm going to put the spring back, same exact orientation. I'm going to go ahead now and find the seal that pertains to this. So if you will, so you guys can go through the process with me. I don't want to leave anything out in any of the videos. I do want this to be a comprehensive video for you folks. The only thing, of course, that I left out was pressing in the bearing. It does seem to be this one here. Just want to make sure. But definitely, if you're going to tackle this, understand you're going to use crap ton of tools, and you have to do this extremely slowly. I mean, I think I'm in my 7th hour right now Oh, that's an additional. I do believe it's this one. So this is 913. If you're doing a 2000, tap on it. If you're doing a 2008, why is it not? If you're doing a 2008 V6, this is incredible. It can't focus. I think it's because you have the lens dirty. Anyway, it's 91347 P88A01. I'm pretty sure that's the one because that's the one that matches up the most. We'll find out right now. What I'm going to do is I take off each one. I will then verify it against the new one. I was hoping to have recycled these little bags, but they're going to get so dirty. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I will toss it here. No, where do I toss it? I'll toss it here on the side. All right, so let's see. We're going to pop this bad boy off. So that is indeed the seal. I don't want to get confused and confuse it with the old one. But the one I was holding in the left hand is the old one. So I'm going to toss that so I don't get confused. I'm going to coat it in some power steering fluid. Okay, I don't want to drop it. Okay, I've got it coated in power steering fluid, which is a super important step. I'm going to pop that bad boy back on slowly. I don't want to damage it in any way. I mean, thus far, the overhaul has gone pretty decently. The only thing that I will say is definitely it's messy. It's arduous. If you want to do it right, it's going to take you forever. It's just going to be very tedious. I'm going to go ahead and just get some power steering fluid on this. Okay, so I like to do that with the engine oil plug, just to get everything nice and coated. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this guy back on. I'm not going to show that on camera because it's pretty self-explanatory. All right, so we're back again. You won't see me leaving the video, of course, but now we are in, I think, the 8th hour of this job, probably even the 9th. So we are now reassembling. So I left off in the previous part. I had taken out, I had disassembled this part, which is where the valve is. I got it back torqued down really well. It actually requires a lot of force to do so. And so that's back in. And now we are pretty much done with this side, I believe. What I'm going to refer to throughout is the diagram. In this video, honestly, I mean, at this point, if you want a disclaimer, this video is going to be even longer. I hope that's what people out there want. I know that I would have liked that, a video showing every little thing possible. That's what I try to do in this video. I mean, I didn't try to, I did, except for pressing in the bearing. So just to make certain, I'm looking at this diagram, and oh, this is really interesting. This is the thing, this is the part that I'm really not gonna touch. Right up, let's orient it correctly. Right up here, turn the flash on. Up here, there's another snap ring, and then there's some kind of what they call sub valve in there. I am not touching that. I believe that this valve connects with this valve, so perhaps maybe they mean, like, I think it's to inspect it that they want you to disassemble that, but I can definitely tell that when I poured power steering fluid from here through, it came out on this end, so it cleansed it anyway if there's any debris or anything in there. I'm not messing around with that. I'm not taking it out. There's no seals in there. So I'm leaving that as is. So anyway, let's verify. So you have that part there, which I'm not disassembling. And then There's the pump. Now apparently there's some, oh, that's from the other side. So wait a second, there was an O-ring in there? I guess there was an O-ring in here. So I'll go ahead and get that. That must be this O-ring that's over there. So let's find that O-ring now, just so that we have it in there. But I'm concerned possibly putting it in that it'll fall out. Anyway, let's go ahead and find the O-ring. So I think this is it. This is 91348P2A003. And so I didn't even remember, but pretty sure this is where this O-ring goes. So you can see how flexible these new O-rings are, and pliable, and of course bulbous, very round. I'm gonna go ahead and coat this in power steering fluid. I'm gonna just hold on to it. I'm gonna dip it in there. See how I can do this. Okay, that's good. All right. Because that's what the technical manual calls for, which I think is a very important process, because you don't want these seals to run dry. When the pump is operating, you want them to be nice and coated. So what I'm going to do is that seal, okay, I'm going to press it around, because it almost did look at first pass that it was already seated, and it was not. So make sure that you run your finger along to seat that seal properly. So I'm having, let's see, okay, so that's good. I have the seal in there. Okay, so we're gonna put this part off to the side for now. This is the old seal, and it's so stiff. See? Doesn't even want to bend, and extremely flat. It's insane, because it feels like a whole different. I think of these as not technically seals. I think of them as bands, but it's so flat. You can see it's got like a razor flat edge, so you can definitely understand why the pump was leaking, and you can see how stiff it is. All right, so we I should say I have someone helping me out. We're gonna set this aside now. I just want to make sure that it has everything for now. So I never touched the sub valve, I never touched that snap ring. I've got the O-ring now in place. You have to really make sure it's seated, because especially that new seal, is nice and pliable and just really fresh, and you just really need to get that pressed in there. I'm gonna do this at the end once I have the case together, so I haven't done that yet. I already replaced the seal here where the spring and the valve go. I've pressed this seal into the case. The drive shaft is back into the case. The ball bearing has been pressed in. The snap ring is in. The pulley and the nut will be the absolute last thing. So we're good. So I'm going to set this to the side. Now we're going to work on the other side. And as I said, really, I mean, it depends. It really depends on your perspective of things. I would have liked to change the power steering pump altogether, but I just found it to be wasteful, because I know that the pump was still good. And as you can see, these components are still top notch, but you have to think of the situation you're in. If you let the power steering pump run dry, you didn't you didn't do a good job of keeping your fluids topped off, that I know a lot of people do that, then you're better off getting a new power steering pump, which will cost you through Belize Honda about $300 and something for a remanufactured one. A brand new one is like about $550. So it all comes down to how well you maintain your car. In my case, this is something I remember going through the technical manual when I got this technical manual and I saw this segment. You know, I remember reading pump overhaul and I said, wow, that is so cool. Honda has a procedure for overhauling the pump when most manufacturers would just make you replace it. And I always fantasize about doing this one day, like in the perfect garage with the perfect tools on the perfect day. And the reality is I did it probably at the worst times possible. I have so much going on, but I'm glad that I took care of it now, because it was leaking to the point where it was going to damage the alternator, it was going to damage the starter, and it was going to damage the compressor. And then you're looking at a way bigger job. So to recap, you really want to make sure that you have, you know, all the stuff you need, but most importantly, that you take your time doing this and that you get those genuine seals. So we're going to continue. And as I said, make sure that you have this technical manual that you can refer to, because this is a lifesaver. But I'm so familiar with this at this point that I'm going to go ahead and just start putting things back together. I'm going to keep it here, obviously, to refer to it, but I pretty much have memorized everything because I've gone so slowly through it, which is what I recommend that you do as well.
Go.
Okay, now we're back on the other side, and so we're going to start with the $34 seal. 91349 R70 P01. $34, folks. This must be made from a different type of rubber. But in all sincerity, if you left this out, I mean, it's so interesting, because really I can see it, and I'm so happy that I did this and I did not spend money on a new pump. I always made sure to keep my pump filled, even with the leaks, even at any point I made sure, you know, so that is something that I did. I was responsible with it. And so, you know, you really have to figure out what position you're in. Did you let the pump run dry? I didn't even let it run dry when I was dumping the old oil now. I sacrificed a lot of power steering fluid to make sure that I never let it run dry, even during that process. And you just really want to get as much power steering fluid as you can on everything. And this stuff is pretty slimy. It's pretty thick. It stays on pretty well, so I'm not gonna try to force it. I just want it to take its own shape and really just sit there pretty. And I think that's it. It's looking pretty good. All right. So as I said, once I go through, I'm gonna continue to put power steering fluid. I'm just gonna keep the power steering fluid close and open. Hopefully that's still. I'm actually kind of low on this bottle here. I hope I don't end up needing more. But I just want to make sure I coat all this stuff. Everything's looking really good though thus far. It's interesting to note, inside of here, it almost seems like there's something in the center there, but I'm going to look at the diagram just to make certain. And in the diagram, they don't make any mention of anything, so it's just, I'll go ahead and pour a little tiny fluid in there, just 'cause why not? Anyway, let me just get some fluid. I know it's going to spill, but that way when I place that plate, it'll have some fluid trapped there. So everything's sitting pretty. That seal's perfect. This is, as I said, I am certain that God willing, this job is going to come out great. I know that in Eric the Car Guy situation, those seals that he got in that kit, it's just not going to cut it. It didn't cut it, I should say. All right, so if you remember this piece, this is easy to remember how it goes because I have the scorched part. It doesn't have any dot or anything like that. But it also, I remember saying that you have these notches. So you want to line up where it goes in the pin. And as I said, I'm not referring to the technical manual at this moment because I spent so much time on this that I honestly memorized all of it. I'll probably dream with these parts. Okay. So one of the added benefits is of having the fluid is you can get it to slide. So there it goes. Right, we have that. Now from here on, the parts have little dots that help you orient them. I'm just gonna continue. I know that I'm gonna end up wasting a lot of fluid, but I really do wanna have all of this lubricated as much as possible. And it's really nice to see that clean fluid because that fluid that I took out looked like liquid tar. So just try to get as much fluid as you can. I know that these are the things that I'm doing that is going to make a difference in this job. Okay. Just make sure you wear gloves because this stuff is pretty nasty. I'm going to refer to the technical manual super quickly. Okay, the next part is this one. And remember that dot, the way that I have the case, I'm going to hold it the same way I held it when I disassembled it, just so you'll have that symmetry in the video. We're going to look for that dot. So where is that dot? There it is. You have the dot right there, so that is going down. And there's only one way that you could put this guy in terms of the pin. Okay. Look the other way, making sure that that dot is facing down the way that I have it held. There you go. Now we're going to move on to the rotor. So I want to make sure though that I'm not missing something because I could have sworn that I would be changing so many more seals that I'm changing, but in reality it's not that many seals. To be sincere, so yeah, anyway, I'm gonna get the rotor, and I kept that in a bag super tight. The rotor also has dots. Those dots are going to be in the orientation we're doing it. It's gonna face downward. I'm gonna try to cut this out so that I can have it just drop in. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so what I remember is I held it in my palm, so that's what I'm gonna do now. So I have those veins won't drop out vertically. So let's hope I don't mess this up. So I'm going to hold it in my palm. Okay, there we go. And toss that over there. Okay, so there are the dots and they're going to face downward. So I'm gonna go ahead, being very careful. Okay, they want to fall out on me, so okay, I'm gonna do this off camera because I don't want them to fall out, okay? The easiest way, honestly, is just flip this as quickly as you can. All the fluid that I put in is going to come out, but there's really no other way to keep the ball in place. So here we go. Okay. And that's that. I'll fill that bad boy up with some more fluid. Not so much though, you know. I'm going to get it so that I can get the sides. I'm going to see if I can get it to lift up a bit so I can get underneath. Okay. All right, good. Sitting pretty. Try to get all that fluid in there. Don't be upset with me, Eric, the car guy. Okay. So just taking a quick look at the reference. The next part is this plate. It also has dots, and in our case, it is going to face down. So where are those dots? Or maybe no dots? Maybe these, I think this part doesn't have dots. But actually, interestingly enough, it can only go this way. It can actually only be oriented this way because what happens is you have those pins. So they have to seat in there. It really is a job that if you take your time and you know, this is how I do these jobs. I take an enormous amount of time. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. If I can't take all this time to do this job, I wouldn't do it at all. If you would do a job this slowly, it just makes it so unlikely that you're going to mess up. So one of the things I know that's going to happen for certain is that I need to have this part here. You see that little, you see this part here? Definitely going to have this lined up in the middle so that that drive shaft can come in. But as you can see, there's a seal we've got to replace here. For lack of a tool to do this, I just got this. Don't hate me. Okay. This is, I believe, the seal. I really don't have many seals left, so this is the 91347P2A003. Okay, I'm gonna put this down so I can just get this bag open. Okay, and we're gonna, since I have all this power steering fluid now collecting in this really cheap dish bucket, I'm just gonna slide this around in there. I'm gonna throw away the other seal so I don't get confused. But again, same situation. This one actually stayed kind of bulbous, but super stiff, extremely stiff. So that's out. Oh, all right. Coated in power steering fluid. Now it's going in here. Just make sure you get it in there. Okay, I got it in and it's sitting pretty. One of the tips that I want to mention since I'm here, and I want to forget to mention this, is what I like to do is I like to conceptualize repairs. So before I ever put my hands on anything, I have really great spatial memory, visual spatial memory. So I have the ability to actually see the process in my mind. And that's what I try to do anytime I do these jobs. I've already visualized this several times over, specifically with the really hard parts where I didn't have the proper tools to do them. So if you have that ability, that's what I would recommend you do. I've been thinking about doing this for a week now. Every day it's been on my mind, and I've been thinking of how to conceptualize this repair so that it could go as smooth as possible. In an effort not to skip any step, not to leave anything out, I'm going to look at my parts. So I have a nut for the pulley. I have the bolts. That's the bolt for the plastic part that goes into the pump. This is to mount the pump. This is to mount the pump. This is that plastic part that I'm talking about. And then this is the seal for this plastic part. So I know that I'm good. Now I'm going to ever so gently get these pieces to align with each other once again. Okay, so we had some phone storage issues and now we're back. And so pretty much we got to get these guys to mate. I have the inner part as centered as I possibly can. I will definitely for certain, I know that this is going to have to rotate a little bit, but we're just going to see if I can even get it at all. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so something is not going in. Let's bring it back out. Okay, it's the shaft not going into the teeth of that like gear. Okay. See if I can rotate it, if that makes any. Oh, there we go, I think. So this is very interesting that this is posing such difficulty. That it'd be easy. Oh, okay. So it actually already was seated. It's just you have to put some kind of pressure, but I did keep rotating and it's good. And then there you go. That's pretty much it. And so now off camera, I'm just gonna go ahead and bolt this up and get them tightened down to spec. And I'll see you in a little bit. One of the things to note is that there really isn't anything that gets the case to align perfectly. I have all 4 screws in and you can kind of wiggle that around. So just make sure that you get it to align as best as possible before tightening them down. Just wanted to mention that. All right, so I got these 4 bolts tightened nice and tight. As I said, make sure you get that case. Make sure you get that case nicely seated. And then you get everything to align, which is the most important thing that I did. I have the case really flush. Everything's really tight. The rehaul is pretty much done and I'm very happy. I really love how smooth this bearing is now. And so we're just wrapping up the final stages of the process. It's extremely messy. One of the things I can tell you is all my tools are coated in power steering fluid, which I'm not very happy about, but one of the things I like to do is I like to use Lysol wipes or Clorox wipes, however you want to call them, these ammonia laden wipes, and they're actually really good for getting that stuff off, so I'll have to do that to my tools. The last seal really is this seal over here that will be used for the that plastic part that I'm replacing. And of course, again, very flat, boxy feel, super rigid. Not hard to understand why this pump was leaking. Interestingly enough, I heard something about there's a seal that they were supposed to have replaced, I believe, on cars like mine, that the old seal was black and the new seal was yellow, but that wasn't the case here. All of them are still black. Anyway, I know for certain, and God willing, this job is going to be fantastic. Okay, that was 91345R7811 if you are working on a 2008 Honda Accord V6. And of course, we're going to coat it in power steering fluid. Okay, we're gonna do that one more time. There we go. And whoops, I got turned around. We've got to make sure that that seal is fully seated. So go ahead and make sure. I find that using your thumb works pretty well. And so, one of the things is kind of deceiving. You'll feel like the seal feels like it's seated, but it's not. So you've got to take your time with this. One of the things that I have implemented that works really well is to just place the pump at an angle. And when you place it at an angle, get in there. When you place it at an angle, you can see if it's flush. So I can verify it's flush there, verify it's flush there, and so on. So you see right here, it's rising up a little bit. And that is looking good. I think that's pretty much it. And then the plastic piece that goes in here, I'm going to put it back now. I decided to definitely change that part because it's plastic. And why not? It's about $7, I think, $8 for that part. But how could you do a job like this and then not replace something like that? We're gonna get some power steering fluid on this. Oh, not so smart. Okay. And that seal is there. I also bought a new bolt for this because I saw that the power steering fluid, wow, that is tight. It almost doesn't want to go in. There we go. I got a new bolt because I saw that the power steering fluid was sitting on it and it was all ugly looking. And of course, as I said, why not replace it if you're there? So this is for mounting the power steering pump, I know that. So that only leaves this guy. 91350P8CA01. Like a glove. This is, I believe, 10 millimeter. And so I'll just tighten that down. So this is about, I think, 10 p.m. local time for me. One of the cool things I noticed is when I hand spun the pump, you could actually see the fluid going in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pour some fluid into the inlet valve or whatever you want to call it, the inlet hose portion, and then I will hand spin it to fill it back up. I essentially just want fluid to sit in the pump overnight. I want the fluid to get everywhere and also the air to come out as much as possible, but just have that fluid, give it a chance to sit on those seals, get everything nice, but especially make its way everywhere, get everything lubricated. I think this is actually going to lead to phenomenal results. As you saw, I put that plastic part back on, I put a new bolt, I've torqued it down, and the pump is officially rehauled. Thanks to the Lord. Alright, so let's pour some fluid. Once again, not trying to speak ill of Eric the car guy, but one of the things I saw is that he was pouring it in, when it was back on the car. You really want to do that now that you don't have it in the car. Now, interestingly, let me check something out. Make certain it's not gonna spill out. No, it won't spill out. Everything's sealed. And the outlet is over here, so we can go ahead and keep putting power steering fluid. I believe he had it back on the car already, and then it's at like an angle. Ooh, too fast. All right, so this is what I was saying about rotating it to draw the fluid. See, so if you turn it, if you have the pump facing this way and you turn it counterclockwise, you can get it to draw the fluid in. So I'm just gonna keep filling it up so I can't fill it up anymore. And I'm gonna let it sit overnight. But then also I have to figure out how in the world to get the pump dry, because now the pump is full of power steering fluid on the outside. So as you can see, you rotate it counterclockwise and it will draw the fluid in. So that's already verifying that our pump is looking good. Whoa, getting too ambitious. All right, so we may have the pump filled. Oh, some bubbles there. Okay, maybe filled. The next step will be putting it back on the car. I want to mention is take great care with your serpentine belt, also known as a drive belt, that you really be careful. Yesterday, once I got it off, I didn't really care for it. I just wanted it out of my way, and especially because it took so much force to get it out, I became preoccupied with just getting it out of my way, and I didn't care. And so this morning when I took a look, I don't think you'll be able to see it on the camera, but all the way, hold it there, hold it, all the way down here. I really don't think it's gonna come out on camera, but essentially, take my word for it, it came off one of the pulleys, which I think is for, I think it literally might be where the crankshaft pulley, to be sincere, because the compressor's up front, this is the starter, the alternator somewhere else. So I literally think that's the crankshaft pulley, and it came off of that, and that is a pain in the butt. You won't be able to get your arm down there, and I would presume that at the dealership they have very special tools to put these belts on. I've never really messed with putting on a drive belt or taking one off. Just, you want to make sure that once you get that belt off, you have something holding it. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get a zip tie, and I'm going to place a zip tie here, just holding this belt under some tension so that it stays in place. Because the last thing that I would like is this belt to come off all of the pulleys. And as a matter of fact, it came off another pulley, which is for the compressor, which now I have to work on getting it square. But really be careful with that belt. Now we're on to the step of putting the pump back on. And I wanted to make a correction to something I said earlier. I had mentioned that when you have the pump in this orientation, if you turn it counterclockwise, that's what brings fluid into the pump. That's actually not true, because this is the low pressure side, this is the high pressure side. And when I poured fluid through the high pressure side and I made it go in, obviously that's the opposite form of operation. The reality is that when this is on the vehicle, it spins clockwise. But because I wanted to pour the fluid in through essentially the output hose, or the high pressure side, I was turning it counterclockwise. I wanted to correct myself. You definitely want to put on the pulley before you put it on the car. It won't fit otherwise. Ask me how I know. If you get a little confused, the way the pulley goes back on is with this part that kind of juts out there, going this way. And you'll know because you'll see the mark of the nut. Putting on a new nut. So we're just about to connect the belts. I actually have them on here and here. But I just wanted to mention, we got the belts back on. I put the pulley back on. I put the pump on. Remember, when you're mounting the pump, it's a 12mm bolt here and a 12mm bolt down there. That bolt down there is an absolute pain in the butt to get to. So you want to have an electric tool, an electric ratcheting wrench, something to that effect, because it is difficult to reach it. I used a wrench as such, but I mean, I kid you not, it was over 15 minutes to get it on there, and it was over 20 minutes to get it off when I got it off. So you want to have some kind of tool that you can get in there that's really small, that'll do the work for you. And of course, with the belts, you want to make sure that the belts don't come off the pulleys when you have it off. So don't do as I did. When I got this all off, I was so happy. I took the belt, I threw it off to the side, and then I found out this morning that the belt had come off the crankshaft pulley, and that almost became a nightmare. But when you anchor, when you're putting the belt back on the pulley, you want to anchor yourself to this bolt that is, well, it looks like a bolt anyway. It's right over, let's see if we can get it. It's right there. I'm going to put it right at the center of the screen. So that right there, that looks slightly silver colored and oxidized, it looks like a bolt. It's actually not a bolt or a nut. It is essentially an anchor point. And think of the belt auto tensioner lying like this on the motor, and you want that actuator to tilt upwards as such. And so to do that, you actually want to have your wrench lying low towards the front of your car like this. Actually, I used this was literally the setup that I used. I couldn't fit my breaker bar. You really want to use a breaker bar for this, but I couldn't fit the breaker bar in there because I had to put a whole bunch of attachments for the socket size to fit the breaker bar, and then I didn't have enough space because there's not enough space between that anchor point and the frame of the car. So this was the biggest wrench that I have otherwise. And so I put that on there, and I'll just replicate it actually. I took out the reservoir. Just be careful setting it to the side that you don't kink the hose too much. And I latched onto it. In my case, I think it's exactly 19mm, but I don't have that, so I used a 3/4, and it worked. You know, it's not perfect, but you want to have your wrench all the way down like this, and you really want to leverage, and you want to bring it up. You know, you want to have the wrench lying all the way down this way, and then you're going to bring the wrench upwards. Don't have the wrench vertical as they show you in the diagram, and then just try to push towards the car. You're really not going to get the actuator to budge that way. And another thing that's misleading is that in the technical manual, they tell you to do it slowly for 3 seconds. I mean, I'll be sincere, there's no such thing as going fast with that process. It requires so much torque. You're not going to be able to go too quickly. And also, on top of that, is that alright, moment of truth. This is real time, no BS and editing. We're gonna turn it on and see what happens. I put the cap on really loosely because I don't want it to pop or explode, like if any fluid's gonna come out and stuff. So let's see what happens. foam indicates air is coming out of the system. So you can see the pump is getting quieter. Just gonna put some more fluid. And I'm gonna lift the car up in the front. And we're gonna turn the steering wheel lock to lock, lock to lock. I would love to get this on camera for you guys, but it'd just be too difficult. I don't have enough hands. So just make sure you keep this topped off. You get the car up, and then we're just gonna turn it lock to lock, lock to lock, and I'll report back how long the process took. So I have my trusty sidekick twisting or turning the wheel lock to lock. Everything's looking good. It's unfortunate, but for you guys, my pump ran dry a little bit, which I didn't want to do, but I was more focused on doing the video than I was the pump, so that's unfortunate. But everything is looking good. Since I had the pump filled with so much fluid and it sat the entire night and morning with the fluid, I feel confident everything's okay. And I got the fluid, like, I think it was like max 8 or 10 seconds. Just make sure you get the fluid in there. So she's turning the wheel lock to lock. The car is, the wheels are almost completely off the ground. Not completely off the ground because it's not necessary. It's just enough that the wheels are almost completely off the ground. And she's just turning the wheel lock to lock. And I'm just looking for that foam to subside. We've been going about 5 minutes now, and as you can see, there's tons of foam. So from this point, I'll continue to do that process, and I'll let you guys know how long it took, and I'll show you the finished product. But everything's looking really good, and I'm thankful to God. The job is done. And one of the things I wanted to add or mention in addition is that when you are ordering the seals, the seal that goes right here in the output hose or the high pressure line, that seal will not be part of the power steering system. So it will not come up as a part to order for the power steering system. It's considered the power steering line. So don't forget to get that seal for the power steering line, because it could leak there, and that's one of the seals that you do want to replace. So as you can see, I replaced this plastic part that is the inlet to the pump. I replaced these screws, I replaced the mounting screws, of course I replaced all the seals. Everything's looking great. It sounds nice and quiet. There are no leaks. I've been driving around for some time now, and there's absolutely no leaking anywhere. You can see how clean the pump is now versus the way it was. One of the things I will mention is be careful with taking fluid out and trying to flush the pump after doing the overhaul. I got a little overzealous and I wanted to clean more fluid out, and I did something that's not in the procedure, which is I disconnected the low pressure line and I emptied the reservoir from there, and a lot of air got into the system when I refilled the reservoir, and the pump sounded atrocious. I almost feared that I destroyed the pump. So don't do that, and just be a little cautious, because when I do the video at first, I think the pump silences within like 10 seconds, and the pump was sounding so bad for minutes. I mean, I think it went on like 20-30 minutes. It just sounded so horrible. I thought all the work I did was for nothing, but as you can see, it's quiet now and everything's good. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, and I hope that you'll be able to do it as well, and you'll have success with your job.